Hi, this is Tim with Total CSR.
Good morning.
Hi, good morning. Hi, thank you for getting on the call. I appreciate you taking the time. And I just put my screen up, so it should be visible for you guys. And then one question for you too. So I usually will go through the commercial lines, the CSR training for either commercial or personal lines. Is that what you were planning on?
Yeah, are you able, how different are they? Because this is Rhonda, I'm the Director of Service Operations, so I kind of oversee both departments.
Uh-huh.
So I kind of...
It's the same overall format that
Okay.
you'll see, and I can point out the differences. And
Okay.
I mean, we can look at both. It's fine if you want to see them.
Well, let's just start with one, and then you can maybe point out the differences, and if we need to see more, we could. Is that okay?
Yeah, we can do that. You betcha. Okay. Well, then I will give a little bit of background, and then we can jump in. The founders of Total CSR also own a third-generation agency, and their father had sold his operation to Arthur J. Gallagher in '99, and they went to work there and bought the business back in '08. So as we've been growing since then, really focused on hiring and onboarding within the agency. And in fact, we were always looking for a solution or a school or training for the CSR role, that practical side. And so we finally built and launched it ourselves just over a year ago. And we have signed up 760 agencies and counting across the country. And we do continue to add courses. So our next course coming out is going to be a benefits course for CSR training. And then first screen from there that we're going to look at will be my agency. It's the admin page that it's going to take us to. And so here this is, and from the admin page, we can see users enrolled in our courses, how they're progressing through the modules on any one of those courses as well, and so that we can track them if we want to. Adding a new user, we just need first name, last name, and email address. And then they'll get an auto email sent out, and then they can access our site and go to the user side, which is going to be My CSR.
Can I ask you a question regarding the number of users?
Yeah.
I know it's based on whatever you buy, but let's say you get the middle one, I guess the premium, where you have 10 users. So is that the number of users you can have at any one time, and then as they complete the course, then those seats get free, or do you have to buy more? How does that work?
Yeah, it's how you said initially. So if they complete the course, then you can remove that user, and then they can, and you can add somebody new. So right, the base package is 3 users, and it doesn't mean you're limited to 3. That just means no more than 3 at a time. So the average time to complete the course takes about 3 to 4 months. So when they're done, you remove them, you add 3 more. Same thing with the 10 users. If you have 10 users going and then they complete the course and then they're done, you can add 10 more after that.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, let me get back to, so here's our main education page then for the users, and we've got 4 tabs for the 4 courses, starting with commercial lines. And now you can see there's going to be 7 main modules of training then for this course. After the GE, we're going to do workers' comp, GL, auto, excess and umbrella, property, and inland marine. After those, there's going to be 6 follow-up modules, just review modules. There's 6 more, so it makes 13 in total. And so I'm going to go ahead and launch the workers' comp one so we can take a closer look and see the course index and all the sections, et cetera. So here we are on that. We start each line of coverage with a 2-minute intro video, and so it's just the basics for that line of coverage. What is it? Why do we have it? And its importance. We even go over the history of workers' comp and then talk about some claim scenarios and the like. After that, we'll move into requirement and coverage information like compulsory and elective, monopolistic states. And then we have an interactive state map, and we can get the work comp state requirements for any state we click on, like California or Texas there. Next is the coverage form, and so we're going to review parts 1, 2, and 3 for workers' comp. We'll also touch on the limits of liability that are going to apply, and some common endorsements that we need to know, like waiver, subrogation, is it blanket or is it a scheduled waiver, and some common exclusions then too. And that'll be all for the coverage part. This next section is really the main focus of our training, and we call it the CSR support cycle. We've broken it down to these 8 major steps that we have to know how to do. Obtaining submission info, completing forms, sending the submission, review quotes, and so forth, down to supporting the insured. You see them all there. So, and we think of these as those practical day-to-day processing steps, the real-world activities that we got to be doing on a daily basis. And so the rest of this module, then, we're going to just train on each one of these steps in more depth and more detail. And so beginning with submission information, we start off with annual payroll figures. What are they? How do we collect them? And then we talk about straight time wage. Then we're going to look at remuneration and payroll. What does it include and what does it exclude? Independent contractors and employees, how do we define them? How do we classify them? The supplemental application, what kinds of information is on that, and what does it look like? We have a sample one right there. And now we get to our loss run section. And so here we're going to talk about currently valued and what that means. We have a sample loss run to review. And then there's going to be some terminology. And so obviously there's a lot of terminology. We use flashcards right here to help us out throughout all the different modules. So we have 22 terms about loss run, things like paid losses and outstanding losses, etc. And we always do a drag and drop exercise right below those cards. So, and it really helps us to remember the definitions and the words. And then from there, next activity will be a user tutorial. It's going to be a loss run tutorial. And so whenever we do a tutorial, we generate all these green arrows on the document and or the form, and then we've got to click our way through them to complete the tutorial. And then we're learning the sections as we go. So from the policy period to the valuation date, there it is, to the claim number, the date of injury, and so on until we work our way through that report. We always want to test our knowledge as we're going to. So here's our first quiz. It's a loss runs review, 22 questions on that. We do have to pass all quizzes with 75% or better. So our goal is to learn and retain the information and not just speed through the sections as quick as we can. And so when we pass that, we can go to step 2 of the cycle. That's going to be our accord forms. And we begin with the Accord 130. So we're on page 1, and you can see we're going to do another tutorial based on, there's a lot of green arrows. So we'll be working our way through all these different sections that we'll be clicking on. And after that tutorial for the Accord 130, we get to our scenario section. And in our scenario, so we're actually training the user how to complete the Accord 130 form. So we want them to have that base knowledge, and when they understand it, they'll be able to transfer it to any agency system. Now, each scenario, how it works, first off, we have attachments that we're going to be accessing and then referencing. So we've got work comp info here, and then payroll figures and class codes, and the supplemental application. The very bottom is going to have the loss runs. And now we'll begin the scenario. So we jump into a blank Accord 130, and we'll complete all 4 pages with the information that we have. Hit submit when we're done. We're trying to get 95% correct, but first time we won't. And so we jump back in there, and then it highlights those fields that are still blank, still incorrect. And so we can go back through, clean it up, and then be done with that scenario, obviously learning about the form as we're doing it. And then you can see that's one scenario. There's going to be 5 in total. And so we have a lot of repetition that we're going through. It's real world examples with all the reports and attachments. But it's just practice right now, so the pressure's off at this time. And when we're comfortable there, then we'll continue with the cycle. So next is sending our submission out. What is that? What's included in it? We have samples of all the different documents. And then we'll move into our reviewing quotes section. So there's more terminology first off, actually 14 more terms about quotes like base rate, etc. And then we'll take a sample quote here. We color code them and we highlight them, and then we can, over here on the right-hand side, we explain each section. And if there's any math, we'll explain that. And then we're going to test our knowledge again. So here's our second quiz that we're taking, just a quotes review this time, and 15 questions on that quiz. Now we move into presenting the proposal, what's included in that, etc. We even review how to calculate the net rates for the times when we only have the base rates given. Moving down to binding coverage and the bind order. What is the bind order? What does it include? What do the carriers require from us? Also policy checking. Why is this important? What documents do we review on policy checking? And then there's an exercise. So we'll actually practice doing some policy checking on our own. And then there's the subsequent questions to go along with that exercise. Our last section, supporting the insured. We begin with monthly payroll reporting. And what is it? What is this form? What are the sections of it? And how do we complete it? And we look at the claims process. What is a claim? How do we submit a claim properly? We want to review all the steps involved in that. And then we can look at final audits. What are they? Why are they required? Types of final audits, voluntary and physical, and possible audit situations that might come up during or after an audit. And then our last section is E&O prevention for that line of coverage. So how do we protect our agency? What kind of mistakes do we want to watch out for, and the like. We're at the end right now, end of the module. So we always wrap up with a final exam. And so we got 28 questions covering workers' comp, and then on the finals we do have to pass with a higher ratio. So we got to do 90% versus the 75 on the quizzes. But when we pass, then we're done with that module. And since we completed it, now you see what the formatting is, the activities, the interactions, everything a user is going to go through. And it's the same general format for all of the main modules. The next thing is the timeline that we're looking at. So each one of those 7, they're going to take about 9 to 10 hours on average, or in total it's going to be about 65 to 70 hours. And then the follow-up modules, those are just 1 hour each. But they are spread out over 6 weeks. And so we spread them out intentionally to really increase our retention and our long-term memory. And but now we've completed it, and so great job. And for anyone that completes it, we do give out our designation, the TCSR designation for going through it. And users like to put that in their signature line. And then we can review any section if we want to or need to. And so that's an overview on the CSR for commercial lines. I'll move over to the personal lines now, and we won't look into it in as much depth, but here's what I'll show you. So there's going to be 8 main modules of training. After the introduction, it's then homeowners, auto, dwelling, personal umbrella, articles, earthquake, and flood. And then we do have the 6 follow-up modules again, so 14 in total. Timeline on the main modules, these are going to be about 7 to 8 hours each, or for all the main modules, about 55 to 60 hours on that. And then I'll launch the homeowners one, and we can look at the course index here. So you'll see, okay, we got introduction first off, then it's a coverages, review, and overview. And then we get to the CSR support cycle. So for every line of coverage we always focus on the support cycle and the 8 major steps. So these steps are all similar. The only one that's different is step 2. We're training on a comparative rater system versus training the ACORD forms, which we did in the commercial lines course. So the other steps are the same, but of course it's tailored to the homeowner's insurance or whichever line of coverage then. And so again, we take each one of the steps and dive into them in more depth, obtaining submission info, the comparative rater section. Now, here's where the comparative rater, here's where we have our 5 scenarios that we're going to be training. So it's actually training the user how to complete a simulated comparative rater system. Here's a quick look at that. We're going to go to each one of these tabs, complete all the fields with the information that we have in our attachments, and then we submit to carrier. And so we're trying to get 95% correct again. And until we get there, then we can jump back in and correct all the fields that have the wrong answer. So that's how those scenarios work. And then it's the rest of the steps of the cycle: online quoting process, reviewing quotes, presenting the proposal, policy checking, supporting our insured. So we'll talk about claims on the homeowner side, policy change requests, binders, cancellations, and so forth. And so that's personal lines. Also want to show you soft skills. These are included in the CSR packages. And so there's 5 more modules here. Things like composing emails and letters, communicating on the phone effectively, working with difficult customers. And so they're critical business skills that we need to have. They're not insurance specific per se. the timeline on these each take a couple of hours. So overall, it's about 10 to 12 hours to work through it and complete them. And now, lastly, I'll go to our pricing tab. If you haven't seen it yet, we can review it again real quickly. And so if we click on, first we choose a program. So individually, either commercial or personal, it's the same price, $19.99 for a 12-month contract. We have a 20% discount going for September, so that actually makes it $1,600 for a 12-month contract. We get 1 admin, the 3 users, and the soft skills. And so, but then you can bundle them if you want. So if we bundle it, we add commercial and personal lines. It's $3,500 for the year. We take 20% off of that, so it actually make it $2,800 for a 12-month contract. And so that's what we're dealing with there. And now, so any questions you have, or if there's anything else you want to see, we can take a look now.
Okay, I do have a question. I know that you're one of the sponsors of the Applied NAT conference. So do you do any kind of applied training then in these classes, like EPIC training, or no?
No, we don't do any agency system training, right? It's all just going to be the foundational kind of ISO stuff on the forms and so forth. Because we're selling in, well, yeah, because there's so many different systems out there. That's why we don't focus on them.
Okay. Tina, you have anything?
These are all, let's say, self-taught, basically. So they're going through each of the modules daily. Is there a schedule that they follow? So let's say, like general education, they've got 2 hours in this section. They've got workers' comp for that section for the next 2 hours. So they're not getting kind of lost along the way. So a 3 to 4 month or 2 week time frame can take 4 weeks. Or
well, you can go it. You can do it at any speed you want. It's flexible. It's independent study. The most common way is people that we see is people doing it just a couple hours per day. So 2 to 3 hours a day. If you do that, it's going to take 6 or 7 weeks to get through the main modules. 6 weeks for the follow-up. So 3 to 3.5 months on average. You can do it quicker than that. If you cram it all in, you can do all the main modules in 2 weeks. And then 6 weeks of follow-up training. So it's whatever works best.
okay.
I don't think I have anything else.
I don't think I do either.
And the producer pricing, that's whole separate, right? Sorry, I did have something else.
Yeah, the producer training is separate. Well, you can bundle it together if you want to do all three. The producer training, and just so you know, it is going to be sales training specifically, so sales activities and processes. There's no coverage information within that, and it's tailored for new or inexperienced commercial producers.
So no coverage info at all.
Right, no coverage, just sales specific.
Okay. Tina, you were going to ask something?
Was there a commercial section in there? Or, I'm sorry, a certificate section?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's under the general education.
Okay.
Right here. So we go in depth into certificates and so we'll do scenarios actually on them. So there's 5 practice scenarios of how to complete a certificate of insurance.
Okay, thank you.
Can we take a peek at that? I want to see like what kind of things are put in it.
The general education, so we're going to go over the Accord 125, the application. So it's going to be a tutorial and then 5 scenarios on that. And then it's also going to be, like I said, the certificates of insurance. So 3 typical processes involved with that. We'll review those. We're going to then review the certificate of insurance form. And then we move into the user's going to practice doing 5 scenarios on completing the certificates.
Okay, and then I saw something about the requirements, looking at the requirements. So what are we asking them? I'm just kind of curious because we have, different levels of.
Yeah, so we'll review the, generally, broadly speaking, make sure to review the following. Updating a policy, endorsements, issuing the certificate of insurance.
What about EOPs? Anything on that?
Maybe. I'm not sure. I mean, here's some of the endorsements we look at.
No, I mean evidences of property. The
Oh, that
28s and 27s.
That might be under our property section here, commercial. I don't remember though, but potentially.
Are you able to peek at that?
Yeah, we can jump into it and take a look. So there's the main cycle. We're going to focus on the CSR cycle. So I'm not thinking that we do. Here, you know what I can do is run a search for it. Looks like, I'm just on running a search for it. It looks like not.
Okay. Anything on garage policies that you guys teach?
No,
So it's just going to be your main coverages like GL, property, workers' comp, umbrella, auto? Would that be correct?
Right. Kind of the 6 main lines of coverage. I know we may look to add in the future, to add additional type of modules or lines of coverage, something from the feedback and so forth that we get from current users.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. So all in all, like I know the soft skills. Does the soft skills go into any kind of like time management, anything like that?
It doesn't touch on time management, no.
Okay.
It's just those 5 modules that I showed you guys.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that's all I have.
Okay.
I'll probably think of something later, but how about you, Tina?
No, I think that's it.
Okay. Yeah. I'll shoot you my contact info just if something else comes up, and then we can go from there.
Oh, I do have one last question. This was from our CFO. Do you give discounts at any other time of the year other than September? Like, are you going to have discounts at the Applied Net conference?
Yeah. Yes, we do have. We generally have a discount kind of every other month or so, and then yeah, the conferences usually always have a discount if you attended the conference. They tend to be around 15% though. So our 20% for September is one of the better discounts that we give.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Great. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
Thank
All right,
you.
have a good day. Bye-bye.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.